Hey everybody, it's Chris here with another Motivation Monday, and today I want to talk about encouraging yourself. 1 Samuel 30 describes a wilderness period in David's life. David's not yet king. David and a group of about 400 to 600 men, they've established a little refugee community in a village named Ziklag. They've lived there for about 16 months. It has become home to them. Most of the men are married and raising kids. David himself is married and raising kids. David and this group of several hundred men spend most of their time raiding in Robin Hood-like fashion the villages of the enemies of Israel. But then one day, David and this group of misfits return to Ziklag. They go home after a raid, and everything has gone up in smoke. A group of people called the Amalekites have raided Ziklag. They burned it to the ground. They've taken all of the women and children as prisoners. Imagine how this group of guys feel. We get a picture in 1 Samuel 30, verse number 3, when David and his men saw the ruins and realized what had happened to their families. They wept until they could weep no more. One translation says they burst out in loud wails and wept until they were exhausted from weeping. It's bad. Things are going to get even worse, especially for David. David was greatly distressed, says verse 6, because all his men were very bitter. These guys got ticked at David about losing their sons and daughters, and they began to talk of stoning David. This doesn't mean that they talked about rolling a few joints, going out back, smoking them with David, getting wasted. It means that this group of guys that David has been doing life with for 8, 10, maybe 12 years, they're talking seriously about killing this guy. What's he supposed to do? It's right on the heels of all of this. The last part of verse number 6 gives us this incredible glimpse into David's faith and life. It says this, but David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Some translations read, but David strengthened himself in the Lord. You know, it's one thing to get encouraged by other people. Sometimes we need that from others. But it's another thing when you're sitting in the smoke and ashes of careers, dreams, even relationships that have crashed and burned. It's another thing to be able to encourage yourself in the Lord. That's what David did. And the word encourage there, it's really, really rich. It means this, to encourage, to repair, to hold, to strengthen, to be strong, to grow strong, to restore strength, to be firm, to harden, to prevail, or to withstand. When 600 guys were sitting in the dust, smoke, and ashes of Ziklag, talking about killing David, David was sitting in the same pile of ash and debris, tears streaming down his face, and he did something totally different. Instead of reacting to the enemy, instead of even reacting to his friends, David determined that he was going to respond to the Father. And out of the ashes of David's loss, discouragement, and disappointment, a song began to rise. 3 ways you can encourage yourself in the Lord. Number 1, pray like everything depends on God. David wrote at least 3 psalms during the wilderness period of his life. Psalm 142, Psalm 57, Psalm 34. I'm not certain that Psalm 142 came out of this specific period during David's life, but maybe he recounted the principles of it. And in Psalm 142, David, he determined that he was going to vent vertically his pain to God. Here's the way verses 1 and 2 read. I cry out loudly to God. Loudly, I plead with God for mercy. I pour out all my complaints before him. I spell out my troubles in detail. How many of you ever complain? I do. How many of you have developed complaining as a spiritual gift? Sometimes my wife thinks I have. Well, if you've ever complained, you can develop the skill of venting vertically. David just lets God have it all. He expresses his pain. He cries out to God. He pleads for God's mercy. He pours out everything. He spells out his trouble in detail. And what's really cool about the venting vertically process is that it clarifies his faith so that by verse 7 of this psalm, David breaks into this kind of refrain. Set me free from my prison that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me. Wait. They're talking about stoning me. But he says, if you'll set me free, the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. Pray like everything depends on God. 2, refocus on God's promises and purpose for your life. Psalm 57, another wilderness psalm, reads like this in verse 2. This is one of my favorite verses. I cry out to God Most High, to God who will fulfill his purpose for me. He will send help from heaven to rescue me. I believe that as David sat in this pile of ashes and debris, he remembered, wait. The story doesn't end like this, because I remember a day when Samuel the prophet showed up at my home. He anointed me with oil. He told me about God's purpose. I've been holding on to that purpose for these last several years. And if I've still got a pulse, God's still got a purpose, God's still got a plan, I'm holding on to God's purpose. I love the way the Amplified translates Psalm 57, verse 2. It reads like this. I will cry out to God Most High, who accomplishes all things on my behalf, for he completes my purpose in his plan. Guys, gals, if you've still got a pulse, God's still got a plan. He has a purpose for your life. And number 3, remind yourself of who God is. This really gets revealed in the Passion Translation of Psalm 57. So let me read it to you and wrap this up. David, sitting in this ash heap, says this, I will cry out to you, the God of the highest heavens, the mighty God who performs all these wonders for me. From heaven he will send a father's help to save me. He will trample down those who trample me. God's got this. He will always show me love by his gracious and constant care. Then he builds to verse 5. Be exalted, O God, above the highest heaven. May your glory shine over all the earth. And then to verse 7, he gets so confident as he remembers who God is and all that God has done that he says it this way. My heart is confident in you, O God. My heart is confident. No wonder I can sing your praises. How did David encourage himself in the Lord? Part of it, he reminded himself who God is and what he has done. Maybe he sang. Maybe he sang Psalm 100, verse 1. Shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him, singing with joy. Maybe David lifted his hands. Psalm 63, verse number 4. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. Maybe David bowed in reverence before God. Psalm 5, verse 7. By your great love, I can come into your house. In reverence, I bow down towards your holy temple. Or maybe David just rehearsed God's blessing to him in the past, as he does in Psalm 103. Let all that I am praise the Lord. With my whole heart, I will praise his holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. May I never forget the good things he does for me. He forgives all my sins, heals all my diseases, redeems me from death, crowns me with love and tender mercy. He fills my life with good things. My youth is renewed like the eagles. Hey, this is how you can encourage yourself in the Lord. Pray like everything depends on God. Refocus on God's promise and purpose for your life, and remind yourself of who God is and what God has done. What did God do in response to David strengthening himself, encouraging himself in the Lord? Well, here's how 1 Samuel 30 describes it. David got back everything the Amalekites had taken, and he rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, small or great, son or daughter, nor anything else that had been taken. David brought everything back. And in hours, God would totally turn the tables on his situation. This is what happens when you encourage yourself in the Lord. I'll remind you again, if you're not dead, God's not done. If you've got a pulse, God's still got a purpose. You're not finished yet because God's not finished yet. Instead of reacting to your circumstances, instead of reacting to the enemy, instead of even reacting to your friends, why not choose to respond to the Father? Pray like everything depends on him. Refocus on his promises and purpose, and remind yourself of who he is. This is how you can encourage yourself in the Lord. That's it for Motivation Monday.